concerns growing that it will take between 7 and 15 weeks to clear a backlog at the port of Durban. And we'll check in with the South African Association of Freight Forwarders, and Dr. Juanita Maree is the CEO of the association and joins us now. Good evening to you and welcome. I imagine that, a lot of your stakeholders are looking towards the seas with furrowed brows tonight. What impact is it having on your members and on the industry?
Yeah, maybe to give you clarification, I think the situation, we are in a crisis in Durban because that's our biggest port. And to give you an indication, it handles about 12,250 containers on a daily basis in and out. And we do have 63 vessels out of Anchorage, but only 22 of them is containerized cargo. And why it's such a crisis? The containerized cargo gives us an indication of the complex economy, because that is the manufacturing, the retail, the hospital, pharmaceuticals. So it's not your simple economy, which is in the iron ore and the coal. So that's why we probably impact about 41 different sectors. So the crisis is we need to remove the backlog, and with our indication and working with Transnet, we probably will stabilize, I would think, the middle of February to make sure that we can work the backlog through the system.
And in the meantime, what will the impact be on all of these people that you've just mentioned, those who are waiting for either hospital or medical supplies or whatever else is needed across that retail chain?
Yeah, I think Transnet and the shipping lines are very helping to see what we can do, because, if we can't move the containers, the factories are stopping and we run out of stock. So they do prioritize and see what containers we can call, or what vessels we can call into the port. But it's also not a sustainable solution, because the moment that you change the vessel rotation and you call vessels in and out, it creates other unintended consequences. So what we can see, people go now for the alternative, and that would be the air modality. But also with the predictions that we have now is that people building up buffer stock of about 2 to 3 weeks, and that have an impact on your SMEs and your smaller operations, because they don't necessarily have the cash flow to extend the supply chain with 2 weeks stock into the delivery cycle.
I'd like you to lean in more to that story, because when we see these big entities, Transnet is a massive SOE, and we've seen with the corrosion in their rail infrastructure, this dependency on air and sea and land, means to get product in between, in between the ports and their destinations. For people who don't understand what it means to going into a store and accessing food, for example, or products, I should say, on the shelves, just break it down for us in very real terms of how everyone in the country may possibly be affected by what's happening at sea.
Yeah, I think it's my colleague Henk from the Mineral Council that was indicated that we've got a very open economy. So 60% of our imports and exports come by ocean freight and air and different modalities. So when we look at the international supply chain, it all works according to a schedule, and you've got a rotation. So when the vessels come in, it's normally at marine sites. So you have your tugboats, helicopter to bring them to Anchorage. And then from there, they move to the berth, and then they start offloading the containers and then load the export containers. So in Durban specifically, you work with ship-to-shore cranes, and then you've got straddle carriers. So the design capacity for the equipment is to have 108 straddle carriers. And because of a lack of various reasons and a lack of capital investment in the straddle carriers, we have on a good day only about 60, 62 that's working.
Wow.
Sometimes it goes to about 50, 52. So you can see the design capacity doesn't match up with the demonstrated capacity, because our equipment is not top-notch and it didn't stay up with the maintenance. So you can think for yourself, the trade is flowing, but if we don't have the right equipment or the correct equipment to handle the volumes that's coming in, we're falling behind. And that's specifically what's happening now. We're falling behind, and we can't catch up quickly because our equipment is not in a good situation to catch up to the recovery rate. But it's not all doom and gloom, because we have all a responsibility with Transnet. So the shipping lines reach out to Transnet as well. They have a couple of straddle carriers that's second-hand that they can make available to assist. And I think also it's not good for us to hear that National Treasury will not assist Transnet. We all understand why, but we still believe there needs to be a strategic capital investment, and we need to hold Transnet accountable, that if the money is available, that they will put it in equipment, because they handle 9 of all our ports. So if we don't get our port structure sorted out, we captured with our trade in the international space. And I think for us it's more important that if we don't deliver on time and we don't bring reliability and sustainability in the supply chain, we actually damage SA Inc., because then the world can't trust us that we will import and export as we promised.
Well, so we not only damage the reputation, Juanita, of SA Inc., our economics editor was here as well. You make it difficult for those companies who are also using these lines and are dependent on efficiencies to deliver, and their reputations are also at risk here in the mix. I want to hopefully cover 2 quick things before we have to let you go and run out of time. The first is, clearly Transnet has dropped the ball. As you say, there is a plan. Things are, coming together to try and at least ease and break up some of those backlogs. But this is an institutional problem with Transnet, and as you say, it's now engineered one of the biggest crises that our ports has ever faced.
I think to be quite honest with you, I don't just think it's Transnet. I think it's Transnet, government, private sector, everyone. So we could have been vocal some time ago, and we could have done the things differently. We are in a crisis now, and we don't want to blame and shame, but we need all hands on deck, us, business, labour, government, the shipping lines, everyone to help us to get out of this crisis. It's not something that we will fix overnight, definitely not. We believe, as I said, we will only recover full in February, but we need all plans now. We need to bring in equipment, we need to bring second-hand equipment, open our workshops, order the spares, upgrade our workshops, and help to quickly return the equipment to help us with the volumes. Because if we don't do that, a lot of people say the alternative is Maputo and Walvis Bay, but currently it's not the option because the cost is too high and there's not an imbalanced network between the outbound and the inbound. So we have to fix it. There's no alternative.
Well, as you say, that's the can-do attitude that you have to have at a time like this, and resolving the institutional issues perhaps is happening in parallel. Transnet saying it's deployed industrial engineers, original equipment manufacturers. You talked about second-hand cargo equipment. That's also what they're deploying to try and address these short-term challenges. Do you think, and you've given us some signals, Juanita, that there is movement, but can we avert this, completely? Are we on the right track right now to at least pull this back from the brink irrevocably?
I think there's definitely a very strong awareness of Transnet, what's happening, and the acting CEO, Michelle Phillips, with Russell Bikers on the rail side, understand the problem clearly. So that's why they have all these alternative plans. And as I said, it's we want an immediate fix now, but it's not going to happen. But all the rail players are involved, and I think what's for me very encouraging that Transnet do open and they do speak to private sector to see what we can do. So it's not that it's hands off and there you go and you swim on your own. It's not, because I think the SA Inc. brand is going to be damaged beyond repair if we don't fix the crisis now.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that message with us and letting us know what's at stake. Freight Forwarders Association CEO Dr. Juanita Maree.